What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Big Dog Brad. Thanks so much for tuning in. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and share. Today we're going to be breaking down what happened this past weekend in Week 2 college football, and we'll get into it right after this. All right, everybody. Today there's a lot to cover as usual. So we're going to be talking about at least my take on what happened this past weekend. We're going to start out talking about my top 10 picks last week. Alabama, Georgia, Ohio, Clemson, the Bearcats, Oklahoma, Iowa, Iowa State, Notre Dame, and Texas A&M, Colorado. So we're just going to start off with Alabama. Alabama number 1. I picked Bama, easy pick, right? So 48 to 14 is what the score ended up being. No big surprise there. Alabama absolutely wore out Mercer. Was kind of surprised to see them get 14 points. The talk around the town is that I guess Nick Saban was also a little bit unhappy about the 14 points. I can understand why. Early in the season, they're going to make some more adjustments. They're going to be dynamite all year, so expect similar performances all season. Then Georgia versus UAB, comparable beatdown, 56-7. We throw a pick six somewhere in the game. Stetson Bennett wins SEC Offensive Player of the Week. I think he was like 10 for 12, like 285 yards, 5 touchdowns, 1 interception. Or did he throw the interception? I can't remember. Doesn't matter. But the pick six is the only points that came on the board so far all season. Georgia's only given up 3 points on offense, which is impressive no matter who you're playing. Pretty dynamic defense there. And we're probably going to see a lot more of that out of Georgia, so we'll see what happens moving forward. Ohio State versus Oregon. I got this one wrong. A lot of people got this one wrong. Oregon absolutely embarrassed Ohio State, and they should be. Apparently, they also left a rubber duck on the 50-yard line to troll Ohio State. So, don't know what we're going to do with that, but we'll find out later. So, yeah. Since Clemson played South Carolina State, you can imagine how that went. Clemson clearly overpowered them easily. Cincinnati Bearcats versus Murray State, 42-7. These scores that you're seeing are indicative of top performing teams. Oklahoma decided they didn't like how they looked against Tulane. They went out and hung 76 points on somebody called Western Carolina. This sounds like a East Mississippi from Last Chance U score, 76-0. This poor team didn't deserve this. I understand trying to make a statement, but 56-0 would have been fine. You didn't need to tack on the extra 20 points. That was just unnecessary. But nonetheless, blowout win. Scored 3/4 of 100. Great job, Oklahoma. Nobody still thinks you're a top 5 team. Sorry, it just is what it is. Iowa versus Iowa State. I called this right out of the gate. I said that I thought Iowa was going to win this game. I thought they looked really good last week. I thought they looked really good all over the field. They pushed Iowa State around like Iowa State never got off the bus, in my opinion. Hats off to Iowa for absolutely destroying Iowa State. So, yeah, then there's that. Notre Dame barely beats out Toledo. They were losing in points to this game. Should have lost this game. Toledo had a couple opportunities to put this game away. Could have, should have, and I think if one or two things would have went their way, they would have. So literally a case of shoulda, coulda, woulda. But yeah, the Iowa State doesn't belong in the top 10. I don't even know they belong in the top 15. And we'll get to some other teams in that category as well. Texas A&M, what are you doing? Barely scored like 10 points against something called Colorado. I had this is the only time I've ever picked a team in it and they won, but it was so bad of a win I almost feel like I got it wrong. Out of the top 10 teams, I picked every game right except one. And this was one of the games that I thought Texas A&M would come out and dominate. Yes, I knew that they had lost Kellen Mond, but I figured they had more than enough to dominate something called Colorado. I guess not. And And then and now we're getting into where these are kind of the games that I watched that I thought was really interesting to bring up some points to. So we're just going to jump into it. Tennessee loses to Pitt. Tennessee, what are you doing? You're embarrassing us. Please fix that. As you can see, Arkansas has managed to fix their program. You take some notes. We'll talk about you guys next. But Tennessee, you look better on offense, but what happened to your defense? What happened to that SEC defense? Pitt looked extremely good against you guys. That should never happen. You guys should have blowed them out, in my opinion. We got a ton of talent on that team, but just not the kind of offensive performance. I mean, a defensive performance that I'm used to seeing out of Tennessee. Tennessee, fix yourself. Fix yourself. All right, Arkansas versus Texas. This was another game I picked. I just really felt like Sam Pittman's been turning that program around. From what I've been seeing out of Texas lately, I didn't think they were going to be ready for it. This was the first SEC team Texas has played since they announced they were coming to the SEC, and I guess Arkansas took it personal, and they absolutely stomped on Texas. Now, granted, you can say, oh, you know, the score was 42-20 or whatever it was. It wasn't that bad of a blowout. It wasn't 76-0. Listen, if you watched that game, it was embarrassing. Tennessee was getting just slung all over the place. At one point, their quarterback looked like a rag doll. Looks like somebody watered him up at the Goodwill and threw him out the window and left him in the ditch. It was bad. They got pushed all over the field, offense and defense. It seemed like the only time they scored points, it was luck. The Arkansas quarterback was running up and down the field, doing cartwheels and handstands, just doing whatever he wanted to do. Very impressive performance out of Arkansas. You made them look like the second best team in the West, excuse me. So, yeah, hats off to Arkansas. You guys took that game seriously, handled your business. Looked good. All right, Miami beats App State. Barely. Miami, what are you doing? You get stomped on by Alabama. This should have been a recovery game for you. You should have went out here and hung this 76-0 on App State. App State, not a terrible team for their conference, but they are not a Power 5. Miami is supposed to be in contention for second place in the ACC, which they may still be somehow. But there's no reason why this game should have been that close. Miami, you got way more talent on that team than App State does. You should have been able to go out there and line it without a coach and beat this team a lot better than that. So y'all also need to call Tennessee. Y'all had to have a little group get together. Texas, you can get in on that conference call as well. Zoom it up and fix y'all selves. That's looked terrible out there. Looking at a couple of other teams across it, Penn State looked really good. They absolutely beat the fire out of Ball State, like 60-something points. Incredible performance there. Need to keep an eye on Penn State. Let's see, Stanford upsets and blows out USC. Didn't see that coming. Nobody saw that coming. Some major concerns over there at USC because of that. I don't know why that happened, but y'all got to fix that, man. It looked bad. Okay, bad. If you stayed up and watched that game. Anyway, let's see. Virginia Tech and Wisconsin both look pretty good. Does that mean Virginia Tech might be the second in the SEC? I mean, ACC? I don't know. Going to keep a close eye on those guys. But let me tell you, somebody that did look really good, even though I don't like the head coach, UCF went out and hung 63 on something called Bethune-Cookman. They looked dominant. Pretty much doing whatever they wanted to do. Once again, UFC looked really, really good. I think they're trying to make a statement. Texas, listen, yeah, it looks like y'all gonna have some problems. I think UCF, if y'all would have played them, I think they'd beat you too. Really interesting thing here. I'm gonna bring this up. The school that Gus Malzahn left and went to scored 63 points. The school that he left scored 62 over Alabama State to 0. So. Auburn looked good. Don't like Auburn, but Auburn looked good. So really interested to see how they do. But the most interesting game, at least I felt like most of the day, was the Kentucky versus Missouri game. This is kind of fighting who's going to be in second place in the East. Kentucky just at moments looked dominating, and then Missouri, they let Missouri back into it. They ended up winning that game. I don't know if I even picked who was going to win this game. You could have flipped a coin. Could have been either way. Could have went either way. And I don't know if I said this or not, but FSU, what are y'all doing? You guys lost to JV State after playing a very close game in Notre Dame. So what does that tell you? It tells you Notre Dame's terrible. if FSU could keep, and FSU does this every year for some reason. Seems like they do really good the first game of the season. After that, the wheels fall off. It's like they planned for that one game. We're going to look good, and then they didn't really look all that good. I think it was last season. I think it was Miami. Don't quote me on that. I can't remember all these games, all these teams, all these years. It happens. So, but anyway, juxt of the crux, the best. FSU loses to JV State. Literally just about a JV team. I don't know what y'all are doing, but please either leave the ACC or quit doing what you're doing. Fix yourselves. Talk about a little bit about Florida. Florida over South Florida, 42-20. How in the world did you let this? How in the world did you let South Florida put 20 points on y'all? I don't know. Fix it. Let's see. Ole Miss looked really good, 54 points over Austin Peay. Carolina somehow won a game. Carolina going 2-0, play Georgia. More on that later. Oh, one thing I will bring up real quick. Somebody asked Kirby Smart, how he felt about this being the first game back home since Carolina chewed up the hedges, and he kind of just said, the revenge for that game was really last year, and we're focusing on the now and all this other stuff. I'm gonna tell you the real reason, in my opinion, is because the head coach at that time is currently coaching on Georgia's staff now. So I can understand why it would make sense not to fire up these football players to be mad at South Carolina whenever Will Muschamp was the head coach of South Carolina when that happened. So I get it. Vanderbilt wins the game last week against Colorado State. LSU wins 34-7 over McNeese. And Mississippi State knocks off North Carolina State. I was big on North Carolina State. Figured that game might go North Carolina State's way, even though I didn't say anything about it. But for some reason, Mississippi State decided to play some football. So, yeah, about that. All right, guys. Well, that's pretty much it for the Week 2 breakdown. Georgia's offense looked absolutely dynamic. Put a lot of question marks to bed on can Georgia play offense, and also quit asking us what's going on with the injury list, because nobody knows. Kirby Smart's not telling us much. Apparently everybody's day to day, everybody's day by day, everybody's day by day. It's a day to day thing. Every day. That's what we hear every day. Carius Jackson's on special teams, but not catching the football. That's a little confusing. Beck goes out. Looks like he's never seen a football really before in his life for most parts of the game. Stetson Bennett goes out. Looks like Tom Brady most of the game. I'm so confused as to what's going on. What are we going to do against South Carolina? I don't know. More on that later. But, guys, that's pretty much it. That's it for Week 2. So leave a comment down in the comment section what you think the most surprising ending was for all of these games this weekend, and also what do you think the biggest upset was? We'll go with that. All right, guys, don't forget to hit like and subscribe and share. A few of you guys have been sharing on Twitter. I really appreciate that. You guys are awesome. Thanks so much, guys. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, share. There's merch down in the description. Go check out the Big Dog Brett store and support the channel. You guys have a great day. God bless. Go Dogs.